Hey, what's going on, folks? I'm recording this a little bit early. I know that y'all don't care. It's about 7:53. Recording this a little bit early. That way I can try to go to bed earlier, since school is about to start. Anyways, I'm gonna call this video, I think, having a strong man versus having a blank face. You know, what are the advantages and disadvantages of, you know, the one man strong man type of thing versus having kind of a faceless group of folks that just identify around a banner or an idea. I was thinking about this because, you know, it's funny how people will still talk about, and this may be an advantage. I think if I was more clever, I would do advantage or disadvantage, but this is going to kind of be all over the place, so just try to catch up. I'm just going to go all over the place, but, you know, I think with, like, for example, with Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam, or the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the thing is that, you know, he's still seen and feared by folks. He's still feared by a lot of folks. Now, of course, does he shoot people up, this and that? No. It's because of his words. You know? So that's one of those things. But of course, to put it into context, though, the Nation of Islam still builds this sort of, dare I say it, cult of personality around him. You know, nobody, you know, like I said in the other video, and I don't know if I said it properly, but the thing is that, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is 87 years old. And like I say, he can probably, you know, keep it up for a while. You know, continue on with this stuff. But the thing is that eventually, he's going to pass away. Who's the new guy? The new guy, of course, is somebody that they have shown on their YouTube channel, and they've tried to promote him a little bit. But that person is, of course, Ismail Muhammad. Excuse me. Who is currently a student minister with the Nation of Islam. And I can tell you a couple reasons why they may not like him. And then I'm going to go into another point. And I'm going to try to expand from there. But I'm just going to start with the Nation of Islam. Number one, he's light-skinned. Secondly, he's never had to prove himself or engage in verbal fisticuffs with the likes of Donahue or with, you know, a lot of really legit American mainstream media, or where people were watching TV or listening on the radio. Louis Farrakhan was a dude who really went out there. Same thing with Malcolm X, but of course that's a whole different story. If you type in Ismail Muhammad into YouTube, what will you find? You'll see Ismail Muhammad going on Revolt. And more specifically, he's, you know, talking to the Breakfast Club in a much more sanitized environment. So Ismail Muhammad doesn't have to prove himself. He doesn't have that same, he hasn't proved himself, so to speak, in the ring, you know, going against, you know, the white media and all the you know, and take on the crackers and the honkies and all that business. So that has to be put into perspective. But that's one of the things that has to be talked about as well, is that after the death of Elijah Muhammad in 1975, the Nation of Islam collapsed. And it became, and there were other issues that were going on as well, including the fact, of course, that many of the mosques of the Nation of Islam were seen as fronts for criminal organizations. And of course, like I say, I mean, the whole deal with Elijah Muhammad, this and that, you know, there's a lot of background stuff that went on, but of course, everyone shows a more sanitized version. That's just how it is. But after Elijah Muhammad's death, his son Wallace Muhammad, also known as Warith Deen Muhammad, took over control of the Nation of Islam, disbanded the Fruit of Islam, got rid of a lot of the anti-white stuff. The Yaqub theory disappeared, this and that, and he made it more into a legitimate Sunni Muslim organization. It was called, I believe, the American Society of Muslims, and they even allowed white folks in. And for about 3.5 years, Louis Farrakhan, or at this time he was called Louis X, played along. Eventually, once Louis Farrakhan got more clout and was able to get more support, the calls for the old Nation of Islam to come back were very strong. And ultimately, Warith D. Muhammad faded into obscurity, passing away in 2003. Meanwhile, though, in the 1980s, it was rebuilt. But it was rebuilt around the image of the minister Louis Farrakhan. So like I say, he went and talked to Donahue. He was on TV. He was on local Chicago TV. He was on radio. And above all else, he had swag. He had that, he had that flow that was able to get people there, I mean, even listen to that July 4th speech, the Criterion. Technically not Founders Day, I guess, in this case, but where he, where he says, "I've given my life for my race. I have a spotless record." He's able to build that up. Ismail Muhammad, I could use a clip, but I just don't feel like it. I really don't, because to me, he's just boring. I think he has a lot of influential stuff, but you can tell that he's kind of told what to say. Including the fact that he says, that, yeah, we don't like white people, but then he says, oh, well, we feel sorry for the poor whites. And talking about Bill Gates, this and that. So, I mean, ultimately, they're kind of, you can tell that he's kind of a puppet in a certain way. And he doesn't have the same energy. He just sounds like the typical, Southern Baptist sort of preacher, that black Southern Baptist preacher, or Presbyterian, or whatever you want to say, whatever denomination. But it's like, he's not that interesting. At least in my opinion, he's not interesting. So you have to put that in perspective. So let's look at the flip side of that. The flip side is, actually, I'm going to talk about a transition one. A group that's kind of transitioned from being around one person and has now kind of evolved into something else. And then I'm going to talk about a group, of course, that doesn't have a face. It was founded by 3 people, but it's not really based on those 3 people anymore. So first off, I think that I know y'all can't read my mind, but I think somebody out there will probably understand what I'm going with. But I think that the group that I'm thinking of is, of course, Atomwaffen. And Atomwaffen, evolved from the writings of what's his face? I mean, what is that fool's name? I can't even think of it now. Let me see right quick. What is that fool's name? James Mason. There we go. I could not think of the name. I know. Boomer. I know, but it's like, it started out with James Mason, and arguably, yeah, I guess he could be called a leader. But in a lot of ways, I think there's stuff that goes on that, he doesn't know anything about. Because ultimately now he's just a figurehead in a lot of ways. But anyway, now it's become more of a faceless organization. And of course, I would say in general, it really doesn't exist the same way it used to. They get busted every month, it seems like, by cops, or by the feds. And, you can take that for what it is. That's not me saying, oh, I support it, because obviously I'm not going to get myself in trouble like that. But, but I think ultimately it's more of a faceless organization. Yeah, it's kind of loosely based on James Mason, but in general, you know what I mean? So, I take that for what it is. And I think ultimately, it has become more of a faceless organization. That's why it's harder to pick out. Now, of course, the thing is, they still, they're still wignats, and they still kind of do wignat things where it's like, oh, let's put up the Sonnenrad, let's start saying wild stuff. Let's start, using the word boogaloo. I can't use that word boogaloo anymore, even though I've just used it twice. But that word has been ruined now by a lot of boomers and a lot of normies, or more normie conservatives who think that they're, gonna do some radical fashy things. They're fashy goys. Anyways, with that, let me go ahead and finish up with my last one, which is, of course, Black Lives Matter. Now, of course, Black Lives Matter, in general, was created by 3 people. I think a few of them were bisexual and transgender or something like that. But these folks have since went on to do their own thing. Now, Black Lives Matter is more of a loose affiliation. Now, there is an organization. There is an organization, of course, but it's generally more of a faceless thing. Now, of course, I saw Caleb Maupin's video today saying that basically the same people that give money to BLM, like particularly companies like Marathon Oil, who give money to BLM, they also give money to the New York City Police Fund, and all this type of thing. So basically, it's just like anything else, is that they fund the problem and they fund the solution, or whatever the case may be. It's like they're hedging their bets, really. It's like, well, we're going to make money coming in, we're going to make money coming out. That's the way it goes. So I take, you just put it with, you just got to put it into perspective. And ultimately, of course, to me, Black Lives Matter is nothing but shield talk, this and that. And of course, man, it's the same. Or, to finish this up, really, you look at even the Not Fuck Around Coalition, which is kind of like a wannabe sort of new Black Panthers type of group. Ultimately, it sounds like more of a one-off of ex-military folks who wanted to talk about reparations and, wanted to say, oh, we in your backyard now. We in your backyard, crackers. But whatever. I mean, ultimately, they ain't gonna pull triggers either. They just talking shit. But in general, it's an interesting thing to think about. We think about, fascist Italy being built around, Mussolini, or National Socialist Germany being built around Hitler. And, they build all this stuff up, and they build up the mythos so much that you're just kind of like, well, what else is going on? You know what I mean? And I think that's important to realize. Like I say, with the Nation of Islam, they have the tendency, or at least they have had the tendency to, they do great things, but a lot of it is, the way that they market themselves, the way they are seen, their public image, it's all based around that one guy. And of course, the media and, groups like the ADL and whatnot don't do anything to dissuade that, because ultimately they're still talking about people like Louis Farrakhan. Even though they have their own farms, they got all this, and so they can, they have more of an infrastructure now, so that I don't think they're going to collapse in the same way as they did in 1975. But it's, how relevant are they going to be? Now, of course, ultimately, like I say, with things like this, they need people like them to point their fingers and say, that's the bad guy. They're still going to need that. It's just a matter of how much. You know what I mean? I think it's an interesting dilemma between a strong man or a strong image. You know what? I think that's going to be the title. Strong man versus a strong image. And like I say, it may be a misleading title, but I think that's kind of the point of what I wanted to get at. This is going on kind of long now. I'm going up almost 14 minutes now. Anyway, I'll try to wrap this up around 15. But I just, I think that it's interesting to see how these things go. I mean, same type of thing with Patriot Front. Now, they've had a couple leaders and, of course, people that research the far right and all that sort of thing. I recently saw that a guy was busted in Weatherford, which is kind of like it's a small town. It's like 30,000 people. And people are making it into a big freaking story. And the thing is, it's like they were released. He was released within the day just because, they were putting on stickers, And, of course, that's the whole thing with Patriot Front. Same thing as what was going on with Identity Europa. It's like, let's just put up stickers, It's all ridiculous, at this point. That's why I don't join any. That's why I say in general, these political groups are cringe. Until they gain any systemic power, or they have any legitimate people that, are accountants, or the people that have actually been in some sort of capacity, who aren't just LARPing folks who have talked shit on Reddit or something like that. Until then, I'm not going to take any of them seriously. And that's what I I hope my audience will do as well. Is that, in general, it's all just it's just shit talking right now. It's not even fully on LARPing. That's going on too, but I think it's just shit talking. It's just, let's praise these folks. Let's do all this type of feijoa. And with that, I think I will end this video. Like I say, I think after this one, I think I'll just record part 4 for the Avengers, and I'll finish up with the books. I think I'll probably do that tomorrow. I'll just break these videos up and do it like that. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I say I hope y'all have a good day, and see you later. Goodbye.